everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out next at night. Now, don't forget to check out my Podbean page, mrwebb.podbean.com, my YouTube channel, which is username MrWebbPV, which is also the username for my Twitter feed, at MRWEBBPV. You can also get this as a podcast on Stitcher and iTunes. And here we go for June of 2018. June is a little more exciting than normal. It provides us a chance to see all of the naked eye planets by the month's end. We have some lunar close encounters with all of them except Mercury, and an especially close encounter with Saturn, only 1 degree, and most planets are visible for long periods of the night. So really it's a planetary June. So get out your scope and see if you can find all of the planets all in one night. All right, so let's talk about the planets. We've got in the west around sunset. You can see that Venus is shining bright. Right around 8:30 is sunset in the beginning of the month. Venus will be up there about 20 degrees above the horizon. It'll be brilliant. It'll be beautiful. It'll be fun to see. And it's going to be there all month, but what you notice is throughout the month it kind of travels through Gemini toward Cancer, and then here comes Mercury. Mercury is going to start creeping up on it a little bit. Around mid-month, you might be able to catch it low on the western horizon, but it's better to wait a little bit longer. And by June 30th, Venus and Mercury will both be up in the sky in the west around sunset. In fact, if we go a little bit deeper, like a little bit after 9 o'clock, 9:10, Mercury should be easily visible by this point because the dusk is lower. And Venus will be very easily visible up there. Maybe you can catch that beehive cluster, but it's pretty dim, so you might not be able to catch it. But anyway, so around sunset, basically it's Venus and Mercury, Mercury being toward the end of the month. Let me zoom out a little bit here, and let's take a look a little bit toward the south. And there's Jupiter up there, nice and big and bright. And let me just take a look at the middle of the month. It's still over there, but a little more toward the east. But essentially for Jupiter, just get up after sunset and look toward the south, and Jupiter will be the brightest object in that area if the moon's not out. And it's going to move across the sky throughout the month. And you'll notice that it sets, I'm going to fast forward time in one night here. Jupiter will move from the south to the southwest, and then it's going to set right about 3 a.m. This is about when you won't be able to see Jupiter anymore. So Jupiter's not a morning planet. However, look, Saturn and Mars start to join the party. So let's talk about Saturn and Mars as well. So let's go back to sunset at night. Jupiter's going to be up there so you can see it all the time. But then let's fast forward time a little bit. Keep going. There's Saturn. I jumped a little bit there. Saturn is going to rise almost at sunset. It, in fact, rises at about 10:45 at the beginning of the month and about 9 p.m. at the end of the month. So you just really have to look south or southeast in the morning, and you'll be able to see Saturn rising up. It's actually southeast near the horizon in the evening. And if see how I'm fast-forwarding time here? By morning, Saturn will be over in the southwest. Okay. Let's not forget about Mars. Let me rewind the clock on June 17th. Mars will be rising around midnight, and you really just have to look in the southeast or south somewhere after midnight, and you should be able to find it. In fact, right around sunrise, which is somewhere around 4:30, it'll be directly up in the south, about 30 degrees above the horizon, and it's in Capricorn right here. So take a look and see if you can find them. Again, we've got in the morning you can see Saturn and Mars off toward the south. Throughout the whole night you'll be able to see Jupiter, and then in the west around sunset you should be able to find Venus and then Mercury toward the end of the month. Also, a couple cool things about these planets. If you're taking a look at Venus, what you can see is throughout the month, In fact, let me go to June 1st. You'll notice that in the beginning of the month, it's pretty gibbous, okay? But then as the month goes by, you'll notice that Venus will get bigger and bigger, but it'll be less and less gibbous. However, it's still much brighter than it normally is. Saturn is also super cool this month because it is in part of its many-year cycle where it is actually tilted toward us. So if we take a pair of binoculars, you might be able to see something like that, which is why Galileo said he saw ears around Saturn. But if you have a telescope, you can definitely see how the rings are tilted as toward us, not edge on, almost as much as possible.
And a bunch of other stuff.
So what events do we have going on for the month? Well, from the 1st to the 4th, we have some close encounters between the Moon, Saturn, and Mars. So take a look here. You can see the Moon is pretty close to Saturn right here on the morning of the 1st, which is actually today. And then the next day, you'll see that the Moon is pretty much right in between Saturn and Mars. And then the next morning, notice I have this about 4 a.m. each morning, you'll see that it is pretty darn close to Mars. Now, Mars is only about 3 degrees away below the Moon, but that's a pretty good sight. And then on the 4th, you notice that they all make sort of a line with the Moon closer to Mars, but the Moon, Mars, and Saturn all in a row. And you'll notice if you look at the Moon these mornings, you'll notice that as days go by, it gets thinner and smaller and less bright, and that keeps happening until the 13th, which is the new moon, which is when you have the darkest skies because none of the Moon is reflecting light, at least not back to Earth. And then on the 15th and 16th, we have a close encounter between the Moon and Venus, but we need to go to the sunset sky, so I'm going to switch to sunset, and I'm going to have us look to the west. Speed that up a bit. So now we're looking west. You can find Venus and the Moon pretty close together. In fact, let me zoom in a bit to show what that's actually going to look like to scale. Okay, you've got Venus and the Moon, a very thin crescent moon, kind of tough to find. And then on the 16th, the Moon will be on the opposite side up here, and it'll be a little bit thicker and a little bit brighter, but still a crescent moon. Beautiful view. If we zoom out, you notice that they sort of track each other in the sky throughout the night. And they'll be up there for, I think, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. So get outside and check that out. Good for cameras. So you notice again that the Moon throughout the days here, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Now 20th is the first quarter moon. It's visible until about midnight. You can see it in the afternoon as well. And the 21st of June is the summer solstice as usual. It's the longest day in the northern hemisphere, shortest day in the southern hemisphere. Well, at least daylight hours. Every day is 24 hours, but we have about 16 hours of day up here at 40 degrees latitude. And there's some more explanations in the notes. And, well, we usually track the moon, so let's keep tracking it. You notice there's Jupiter. When is it going to hit? What date? Nope. There we go, June 23rd. On June 23rd, you'll see the Moon and Jupiter pretty close to each other in the sky. You've got a gibbous moon, and Jupiter's only about 4 degrees away. That's a little less than three finger widths away. Oh, there's Saturn. I wonder if the Moon's going to go by Saturn. Let's see, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. We got to zoom in on this one. You've got Sagittarius in there, and then, look at that. The Moon, a full moon, passes only 1 degree away from Saturn. So if you have a decent zoom lens, you should be able to get both of them in a shot. However, Saturn probably won't really show up that well, but you might be able to see it as a point of light as opposed to an actual planet with rings, but it will indeed be there. And actually, technically, the full moon is on the 28th, but it's close enough. So that's going to be visible all night, and that's what's going on for June. So the close encounter with Saturn and Mars on the 1st to the 4th, close encounter with Venus on the 15th and 16th, close encounter with Jupiter on the 23rd, and a close encounter with Saturn on the 27th.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
So if you're going to look straight up, what constellations are you going to see? Well, after sunset being about 8:30, let's go to like 10 o'clock. If you look straight up, you should be able to see Boötes the Shepherd right here. And one way to find him is actually to take the Big Dipper, find the Big Dipper, and follow the arc of the handle, follow that arc to Arcturus, which is the brightest star in Boötes, or Bootes, depending on how mature you want to be. Now, also up there is Hercules with the Keystone Asterism. That's actually going to move in a little bit later, probably around midnight. And you also notice that there's this Corona Borealis here, which really should have more lines. I'm going to work on figuring that out later. But it's out there. That's going on there. And then what you'll notice, if we fast forward to the morning, you'll see that Lyra, Cygnus, and where'd he go? Oh, Aquila down here, and Delphinus the Dolphin. Those summer constellations are up above us in the early morning. That means these summer constellations are on their way. That means summer is coming and almost here. So what are some spring constellation finding tips? Well, if you're looking west, you can find, using the arc of the handle of the Big Dipper, follow that arc to Arcturus and find Bootes, like I said before. But then if you follow that arc to Arcturus, you can then speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo. Also, with these, you can also find Boötes and find Corona Borealis and Hercules, like I said before. If you find Hercules, you're looking for a Keystone Asterism up here. But actually, I think those aren't the real interesting constellations of the summer. I find that Sagittarius and Scorpius are the most interesting. And really all you have to do is look south and look close to the horizon. It should be real easy to find these because Sagittarius is Scorpius is actually in a scorpion shape. It's got this little hook here, which Polynesian explorers thought of that as more of a fish hook than a scorpion because they didn't know what scorpions were. And they identified with things related to their culture. And over here we've got the teapot of Sagittarius. Here's a little teapot asterism right there. And Saturn's right above it. But this is the area of the sky where you have a whole lot of Milky Way. There's the Milky Way. Now, it won't quite look like that at night. It'll be just black and white. But that is where the Milky Way is, the center of the Milky Way. So there's lots of stuff going on there. Lots of neat little things like the Lagoon Nebula, the Trifid Nebula, and if you have a good telescope, those are pretty easy to find. In fact, if you have dark skies, all you need is a set of binoculars and you can find a lot of these. Now, my suggestion is to go to skymaps.com. They have wonderful sky maps and a good identification of where these things are, what you can see in binoculars, what you need a telescope for, that sort of thing. So anyway, that's really it for the month of June. Make sure you check out all of the planets and also see if you can find some stuff out there in the Milky Way. So here I am, wishing you very clear, dark skies for the month of June.